Shalom, this is Dan. I'd like to take a minute to talk with you today about healing in His wings. Now, if you know the book of Malachi, you're probably most familiar with the passages that come out of chapter 3. It's in chapter 3 that we read, "Stop robbing God." And the question is then posed, well, how are we robbing God? And then the answer is given in saying, through tithes and offerings. But if you skip over one more chapter, you'll find in chapter 4, verse 2, that there's a passage that reads that He comes with healing in His wings. It's these wings that I'd like to talk with you about today. Now, when I think of wings, I think of a bird. But we're not talking about a bird in this passage. In fact, what we're talking about is something completely different than a bird altogether. What I'm wearing now is part of the traditional Jewish dress. I have my kippah on, and I also am wearing my tallit. Now, in Numbers and Deuteronomy, God gave a command that the people were supposed to wear the tzitzit, or they're supposed to wear tassels on the corners of their garments. Now, looking at my tallit here, you'll see here's one of the corners, and hanging from the corner is a tzitzit. This one's woven in with blue and yellow. I'm sorry, blue and white. I don't know my colors. Blue and white. And the blue came from a snail back in the time. They would use some of its body fluids to dye some of the string, and that's where they would get the blue strand that came in the tzitzit. Now, my tallit has just the normal blue string woven in there. No snails were injured in the making of my tallit. But the reason I bring that up is because we're going to talk about these corners. These corners are also known as the hem. Now, I want to skip ahead into the New Testament, and you will maybe be familiar with a story that comes out of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And it's about the woman with the issue of blood. Well, here is the interesting thing about that. She had this immense faith after being to the doctors, after spending all her money, and after still 12 years and not even being anywhere close to being healed, and she still had the hemorrhage going on. She came with the faith that said, if I can touch the hem of His garment, I'll be healed. Well, what did we just say? We just said that another word for the wing is the hem. In fact, to get a little deeper, in the Greek it says kraspedon. She said, if I can touch but the kraspedon of his robe, of his garment, I'll be healed. Kraspedon in the Greek means the tzitzit, the tassel that hangs down. This woman came with the faith to know that if she could touch just a portion of his tallit, if she could touch just a portion of his hem or the string of his tzitzit, that there would be enough healing virtue in just this robe, this garment, for her to be healed. Now, how did she know this? Because she knew Malachi. She knew the scripture that said He came with healing in His wings. She knew that the wings didn't mean a bird. It meant the fact that she could touch the hem of His garment. She could touch the corner of His garment. And in that, she would be healed. But let me tell you something else about the tallit. When I read this, I was like, this is amazing. And it made so much sense. When Jesus talked about going to your prayer closet, He didn't mean to actually build a closet in addition to your room here or in addition to your existing closet just so you can have a place to stay and pray. Now, I've done that before. In college, I had my own room, but I had 2 closets. And so I converted one of them into a little prayer closet, put a little chair in there, a little stand for my Bible, and I would actually go in the morning and sit in my closet and pray. Now, that is fine. I'm not saying anything against that. That's a good literal translation. And I didn't really look goofy, and if I did, I don't care. My prayers were still answered. My prayers still were heard. But the truth of what that verse is talking about means this. When a rabbi or any Jewish person goes into their prayer closet, what he's talking about is to do this. By putting your tallit over your face so that you block out everything else, and it's just you and God. I can't see a thing. I don't know if the camera's making me look bad right now or not. But going into this place, this is a sacred spot where it's just me and God. I can tell Him everything that's on my mind. I'm not distracted by the things that I see. Now, when I pray sometimes, I'll be honest, I get distracted. I'll pray with my eyes open sometimes, and and I'll be watching people in the congregation, or if I'm walking outside, I'll be watching nature and all. But when I am like this, and I can't see anything else, this allows me to block out everything to where it's just God and I. Going into your prayer closet is just that. Going into a place where you're covered. You're not hesitant by what's going on. You're not distracted by what's going on. It's being alone with God. This tallit, it might look just like a piece of cloth. But man, this tallit doesn't have any special powers, but it helps us to understand the holiness of God. It helps us to understand the holiness of Jesus. The woman with the issue of blood, she knew. All the other guys on the streets of Jerusalem, yeah, they wore these tallits, no big deal. They didn't have any healing power. But she knew that Jesus Christ had in him this power. It flowed through him. Everything he touched could be healed. Every person. I mean, you think about it, all the miracles that Jesus did. John says in his final sentences of his book, the Gospel of John, that if we were to write down everything that Jesus did, there would not be enough paper in the world, enough books in the world to hold every miracle that he did, or every sermon that he taught. So think about this. Jesus did so many miracles. He had this power. And as he's distracted, as he's on his way to help the centurion whose daughter had just died, Jairus' daughter who had just died, she knew, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I'll be healed. But here's something more interesting too. She was the outcast. According to the Old Covenant, she shouldn't even been standing on the streets with everybody because she had a hemorrhage. She was dirty. She should have been on the outer banks of the community in a form of exile because she had this flow of blood. But she took a chance. She had faith. She came and she said, if I touch the hem of his garment, I'll be healed. And she was. How awesome. And it was such a big deal that Jesus stopped and he said, who touched me? Because he felt this release of power from him. And when she confessed, he said, daughter, you're healed. Jesus knew who touched him. But by her admitting this, by her faith, she received that miracle in whole. The tallit, to me, I don't have any special power. You touch the hem of my garment, and you're probably not going to get saved. You're probably not going to get healed. But how awesome it is to know that Jesus wants to heal. Jesus has that power to heal. But how awesome it is also to know that we can go into this private place. We can wrap ourselves and go into our prayer closet where it's just God and I, and not be distracted, and have a conversation with him and hear his heart for us and share our heart with him. So it's not just a piece of cloth. Even if I don't have any special powers that come out of mine, it's not just a piece of cloth. It's awesome. It's the command that we're supposed to keep, to wear the corners on our garment. But even more than that, it's a representation of God, of his holiness, of the kind of person I want to be. One that hides myself in the prayer closet. And one that, man, when I need healing, when I need help, all I got to know is that I can touch the hem of his garment and I'm made whole. I hope this has helped you to understand a little bit more about the tallit, a little bit more about the tzitzit. I hope that you are blessed by this video and that God shows you amazing things as you're in your prayer closet with him. And may God bless you. May he keep you in his arms of safety, hidden under his wings, protected in his wings. Shalom.